Are you afraid of the dark? Do you believe in ghosts? I'd be lying if I said I don't. My name is Carla, and today I'll tell you a horror story that I lived when I was younger. My story. Turn off the lights and get comfy because what I'm about to tell you could happen to any of you. Back then, I was 15 years old. I remember it clearly because during that summer, my older sister started university and moved to a dorm. My parents couldn't be happier. Their daughter was gonna study to be a doctor. Who wouldn't feel proud? Now, before you say anything, nope, I was not jealous of her. Not in the slightest. In fact, I was the first one to feel happy for Diana, as that was one of her dreams. However, she moving out of the house was a challenge for me. Surely many of you have siblings, and I could probably say that many of you have also shared a room with them. And that's what I had done all my life. Diana and I have always had a great relationship, and because of that, we didn't want to be apart, not even when our parents got another room ready to give us more privacy. However, unlike my sister, who has lived with me simply because she was used to it, I was afraid of sleeping alone. I've always been afraid of the dark. I remember my parents saying that when I was little, even the nightfall would make me super nervous. As I grew older, my phobia started to get better, and by sleeping in the same room as my sister, I could have a normal life. However, what would happen now? Not gonna lie, the first night was horrible. I went to bed early, and to calm myself down and try to fall asleep, I started reading a book. This has to help, I thought. However, after I turned off the light, I didn't feel sleepy, and I couldn't sleep that night. I got up extremely tired and with bags under my eyes. The next night, I tried leaving on a small nightlight, but that didn't help either. With or without light, I would still feel nervous. I was allergic to any noise, no matter how small, and in my mind, I imagined truly horrifying scenarios. It took time for me to adapt, but little by little, I managed to overcome my anxiety and fear of the dark. I adopted a routine that made everything easier, such as doing sports and drinking a herbal tea to get sleepy. I was feeling very proud of myself. I was overcoming a huge obstacle in my life. But of course, my happiness wouldn't last, and everything changed when the new school year started. It started to happen in September. It was almost autumn, but despite that, I remember the weather being very hot overall that year because I would still sleep using thin bed sheets. It was a normal day. I had dinner and went to bed like always, but that night I started to have a series of nightmares that still make me shake now when I think about them. Suddenly, I was in my living room. Everything around me was dark. I could hardly see anything, so I had to trust my sense of touch. Though it was still my house, so I knew it by heart. I didn't know where else to go but back to my room. The door was open, and when I looked inside, I saw myself lying on the bed, sleeping, with the soft nightlight slightly illuminating my face. I stayed at the door frame for a moment, staring at myself. I don't know if you've ever seen yourself in dreams, but it's the weirdest feeling. Everything seemed to be fine, and I was about to turn around and leave when all of a sudden I felt a strange coldness surrounding me. Although the room was almost completely dark, horrified, I felt an even darker shadow coming out of my back. Grotesque claws sunk into my body and started to scratch my arms. I was paralyzed, not knowing how to react. All of a sudden, that strange shadow showed me its chilling smile just before attacking me. I started to scream, and an instant later, I woke up. I jumped out of the bed, covered in sweat, with my heart beating so fast I thought it would burst out of my chest. I sat down, and when I finally calmed down, I saw it was dawn already and that I would soon have to get ready to go to school. But that was the least of my concerns. What the hell was that creature? As much as I feared the dark, I didn't usually have nightmares, and without a doubt, that one had been the most terrifying one I had ever had. Oh, but the surprises didn't end there. When I went to get dressed, I looked at my arms and they were full of scratches, just like the ones that evil creature from the nightmare had done to me. But that couldn't be possible, right? No, it just couldn't be. That was only the first one of multiple nightmares I would have for weeks. Although I was disturbed after what happened, I tried to calm down and not get more anxious. I had enough with trying to overcome my fear of the dark and sleeping alone. But the next week, it happened again. Once I fell asleep in the wee hours of the night, I once again appeared in my house in the middle of the darkness. I chose to just stay there, not go to my room. But shortly after, I started to hear horrible screams. I ran down the hallway thinking my parents were screaming, but no, I realized the screams came from my room. I didn't know what to do, so as a desperate attempt, I tried to pinch my face as hard as I could, thinking that would make me wake up. But no matter how hard I pinched, I was still in the nightmare. My room's door was open, just like last time, so all I could do was carefully take a look while shaking in fear. The screams intensified and I saw myself clutched once again by that strange being. However, this time around there was more light and I could actually see its face. It looked like a woman's face but completely disfigured. It was pale and its eyes showed an expression of genuine lunacy. But the most terrifying thing was its smile. A grotesque and horrifying grimace that made it look more like a beast than a human. The creature was clutching me from behind, but I would still be sleeping with no reaction. I started to scream to myself so I could wake up, and the strange creature seemed to enjoy it. It made its smile even wider, and with one of its claws, it caressed my cheek. All of a sudden, everything seemed to go silent, and in a fraction of a second, I saw how the creature plunged towards me to devour me alive. And I finally woke up, again covered in sweat, and with my heart beating violently as if it was trying to burst out of my chest. Once I calmed down, I got up and looked at myself in the mirror, and I saw I had a scratch in my cheek. It was like that creature could transfer its attacks from the dream world into reality. I was so nervous that I started crying in absolute horror. Why was this happening to me? I swear to you, I tried to be reasonable. In the end, it was all just a dream and I was safe, but even then, it was impossible for me to stay calm at night again. As you might be thinking, the nightmare came back many more times and it was almost always the same. I would appear in the living room, I would go to my room, I would see myself sleeping and not reacting at all while that strange creature attacked me. I couldn't even defend myself because I was completely paralyzed, and I assure you that being a witness of your own murder is simply horrifying. And every time I woke up, I would find new marks or scratches on my body, which made everything more disturbing and strange. With time, I developed such a fear of sleeping at night that I told my parents everything and ended up sleeping with my mom for some time. It was the only way I could feel safe. She said I talked in my sleep, squirm, and even hit myself while sleeping, and that's probably what explains the scratches I was getting. However, that didn't make me feel better because the creature still stalked me in my dreams. During that time, I could barely sleep. I was always tired and my grades also fell. I even became more reserved and was feeling sad. My parents were so worried about my health that they took me to a specialist in sleeping disorders. They monitored me while I slept, but found nothing strange. They assumed I was going through some sort of stress episode, so they sent me to a psychologist. They asked me many times about my daily life, when the nightmares started, and if I remembered any traumatic incident that could explain everything I was going through. I told them about my fear of the dark and how everything started with my sister's departure. They told me it was likely that such a simple change could explain my horrible nightmares. So they prescribed me some medication to take for some time and my situation improved. However, between you and me, the nightmares never disappeared completely, although thankfully they became less and less frequent. I learned to cope with them and manage my fear. Many years have passed since then, but even now that I was capable of becoming independent and sleeping alone, I feel a knot in my throat every time I turn off the light. Because I might be getting another visit that night. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it. And if you want to see more Draw My Life horror videos, subscribe to our channel. See you in the next episode.